2, 1, go. Hello, I am Groot. Welcome to the weekly outlook in the DeFi Dojo. Today is March 16th, 2025, and we are going to discuss the markets, charts, and what we might expect this week. I think this week we might get a bounce. Everything's pretty oversold. However, everything, and I mean everything, is crossing bearish on the weekly. And you can see that right here by these two little lines. These are the 8 and 21 exponential moving averages, and they tell a very good story for forever. If you just bought and held when things crossed bullish, all the way back here in January of 23, and then don't sell until they cross bearish, which is right now, you will do very well. And this, goes for, all of history. You can go back and back test this strategy as many times as you want and go back as far as you want in time, and it works very, very well. They are not to be ignored. Now, we are bearish on the weekly. We already knew this. We knew it was coming. Why? This is the NASDAQ, for example. So on the NASDAQ, we have these lovely Fibonacci retracements that we use, and whenever we get in between the 1.272 and the 1.618, this is a take profit zone. Now, historically, has the NASDAQ gone beyond that zone? Yes, it absolutely has. But when you have a very firm retracement like we have here from 2022, and we can measure that, we can be fairly confident we're going to get some type of reaction at that 1.618. That's why I have it in red. It's the golden ratio, and it works very well. If we look at the S&P 500, it went well above its 1.618. It didn't stop there, but now it has tried to use it as support, and now it has failed. And I'm going to get rid of those pivots just so you can see. But everything I look at currently is kind of hitting a major support zone. So I think that we could see a bounce this week. Now, that does not mean we are going to be bullish. So what usually happens is we get this big bounce. And all of crypto Twitter and all of these people are like, we're back, and time to start buying. I'm not in that camp. I'm in the camp of I want to short that retest. So if we get a move back up this week, which we might, just because we're so far away from these moving averages, and price always likes to go back to the moving average. It's just when it transitions, it can be pretty heavy, which we've seen for the last few weeks. When it's finally done making that move, it will snap back and come back to these EMAs. In order for the S&P to be bullish again, it must break back over the 1.618 and get back up over these moving averages that are now bearish. It is not abnormal to get a bounce and a retest of this level. That would be the perfect level for me personally to pull out some longer term shorts on the S&P, NASDAQ, maybe NVIDIA, pick a couple stocks that have done really well as they start moving back down towards the mean. So we saw this coming before the election, before everything. I mean, for a year and a half maybe, I've been calling this area as the top. And in crypto, if we look at total crypto market cap, it is now bearish on the weekly. So everything's bearish. There is nothing bullish in equities, in crypto. Bitcoin, let's see what it did. Let's see if it gave us the actual cross. It did not yet. So you see, this is the only thing that is kind of giving the last shred of hope here, are these EMAs are not cross bearish yet. So by all means, we could get a nice big rally this week, and if we close above that level and these EMAs and these start curling upwards, okay, then maybe we can have the conversation that will go higher. But whenever I see bearish divergence on the weekly like here, I was selling at that level quite a while ago, and you see this RSI is pointed down, price is pointed up. That typically marks a top on a macro level, just like it did back here, and just like it marked the bottom here. So I don't ignore that. I don't have any real great news other than we might get a relief bounce this week, because when price stays this low beneath EMAs for such a long time without retesting them, then we can get that move back up. And that goes for everything. So I'm not trying to short this week. I want to see what happens. I would much rather wait for the retest. I'm also not going to long this week. I'm just going to basically do nothing and wait and see. I want to get retests to get good entries on these shorts for equities markets. That's mainly what I'm focused on. I'm pretty much going to leave crypto alone. If we look at altcoins, it's also bearish. You can see those EMAs have been bearish for a while now, and we just retested the 0.5 along with the 8 EMA in the same place last week. And so now that would be another place to try to potentially short. It's invalidated, of course, if we can break up over all three of those things and close a candle back over all of them. So for me, this is risk off. Crypto's risk off. Ethereum's atrocious. It actually closed below the 0.5. I thought it was going to hold it and give us a bounce, and it didn't even do that. So you can see that candle close below the 1900 level. That is now, going to be resistance this week. It could give us a bounce. I'm not saying it's just going to keep going down, but eventually it's likely going to make its way down into the golden pocket down here between 1375 and 1584. If you look at the CME chart, there is a convenient gap right down in that same level. And you'll see it right here. And you can't see it on the weekly, but if you go to the daily and you venture on over there, you'll see this gap right here, where price closed on a Friday here and opened up on a Monday way up here. And that created that gap that is yet to be filled to this day. Gaps like to fill, that's what they do. So that would be where I might take a stab at buying Ethereum again, is if we fill that gap. But that is the only reason I would do it. Just technically to buy in that level would be great. And then it would be a bounce, and I'd probably take profits on a bounce back up towards one of these EMAs here. We could get a retest of the trend, which is now broken, right? So you see this, what even is that trend? I don't even know what that line's doing. That should be way up here. So that's like really far away, right? So it's got a lot of work to do to become bullish again for Ethereum. Bitcoin's the only thing that is still has a shred of hope. If you look at its CME chart, it filled the gap that was left here back in November. So that's great. Gaps filled, that's what they do. We have a weekly pivot around 80,500. This whole zone here, it must hold. If this fails and we start closing candles on the weekly down in here, that's bad news. So as long as we hold this $80,000 level on the weekly, doesn't mean we can't wick down there and recover. But on the weekly, that needs to hold. So let's see how big of a bounce we get this week. Is it going to be big enough? That's the question. I kind of do think we'll get a bounce this week. I just don't know how big it's going to be. Is it big enough to get us back up over 89, 90K? I don't know. We'll see. I've seen crypto do crazier things, so it's not out of the question. And if that's the case, okay, fine. I'll start paying attention again. But until it shows me something, I need just give me one good thing to hold on to, and I might consider jumping in. But the timing of the market seems to me like this is the top. I've shown this several times. We had our first eclipse this week, and since then it looks like it's going to be downhill into the final one that creates the bottom eventually. You'll see the bottom is always around these orange ones and the top is near these green ones. Until this doesn't work anymore, I'm going to keep using it, and the amount of days it takes from cycle top to the next cycle top lines up to where we are now, and the number of days from the bear market low to the market top lines up to the number of days we are seeing right now. So as far as timing goes and the cycle and everything seems to line up. The only thing that doesn't is the time from the halving to the top. That might still have a little bit of room. So if we just measure like from the halving to the crypto peak, we had 365 days there. If we go from here to the peak, we had 518 days there. If we go from this one to this peak, it's 335 days. To this peak, it's 549 days. So depending on which one you subscribe to as the actual top, I usually think I subscribe to this being the actual top. And then from our last halving, we're only at 334 days. So if the average is 360 to 500 once, it was 500 once, which was back here, and that was the only time it did that. So I would err on the side of the shorter, just because that's what previous cycles have done more. We're really close. So maybe we got a month, and maybe it wants to go up and make another high before it's all over. I don't know. But for me, I'm out of crypto. I have no desire to buy it. I feel like I sold the top already, and I love having that feeling. So until it shows me something else, I am going to sit out. USDT dominance is another thing showing me that we might get a bounce this week on crypto. You can see that's a very top looking kind of spinning top candle. And the EMAs are now bullish, but they've yet to retest. And usually you get a retest. So we could get a rally. The question is where we finish next week in accordance to these EMAs. Who knows? We could get a giant red candle just like this giant green candle, and we just shoot all the way back down and close below them, and then all right, well, maybe we got a rally coming. But these momentum oscillators down here are very close to creeping into bullish territory. If we maintain up here for another couple weeks, they'll be solidly bullish and likely break that downtrend. So we'll have to see. I'm still waiting. I don't want to be too premature on the long-term shorts, and so I'm just being patient and taking some scalps here and there if I see something cool. Other than that, I'm just playing the waiting game, just like everyone else, I think. So if you have any questions, comments, chart requests, please feel free to drop them in the chat. I do believe I've covered everything. NASDAQ broke the channel. S&P's back underneath 1.618, also bearish. The dollar is rejecting the 0.5 again. So it's being bearish while all of equities and crypto are being bearish at the same time. It's not a good sign. Altcoins against Bitcoin are also bearish, and Bitcoin against the NASDAQ is kind of just neutral. So they're both basically not great at the moment. All right, so let's get some chart requests. We have PayPal. Let's look at PayPal. On the weekly, that's a pretty terrible couple weeks. It didn't even get up to the 382. So not a great sign. We're back right around where I'm averaged at on it. I haven't sold this yet. I like it kind of longer term. I'd much rather be holding something like that looks like this way down here near lows than holding something like, Spotify, which has done amazing, right? Like it did hit its first TP target. We got a rejection. Ignore all these lines. This was me trying to short scalp it last week, which I didn't actually take that trade. It was the premiums were way too high. But I thought about it. But yeah, so like I would much rather buy something like PayPal than something like this that's already gone. I don't know, it's something stupid like 800% from the lows. So I'm still holding on to those things that I've been buying, and I've sold everything that's gone parabolic. So I do think that the markets are going to be bearish for a while, and I don't anticipate any sort of major bull run continuing this year. Let's see. I don't know if I actually analyzed PayPal. Let me do that for you. Let's get back here. All right, so here is what looks like an accumulation to me. Now, what that looks like is you get these consistent, moves from the lows, and it creates a Wyckoff accumulation. I don't know who's got their mic on, but I'm gonna mute you. And so I think it's still trying to finish out this accumulation. Now, obviously that's wrong if we continue lower, and it could absolutely continue lower. I don't know. This looks pretty decent to me though. If you take this low down here to the highs and get that where it's supposed to be, there-ish, there we go. You can see we're getting bought up in the golden pocket, which is what you want to see. And so this could be forming a base, some sort of inverted head and shoulders pattern, whatever you want to call it. It's an accumulation that it looks like right now, and it's invalidated if we break the 786. So as long as we hold that 786, I'm happy holding it and waiting. I realize that's quite a bit of a drawdown from here, and it absolutely could come down there. It's 25%, but it's a long-term hold. I don't think PayPal's going anywhere. I feel safer holding PayPal than I do, Dogecoin, and so I'm going to hold on to that. AVAX. AVAX. Okay, so we got a golden pocket, and that's what that looks like, by the way. Golden pocket getting bought up, so it makes sense getting that support at 1550. And I think we absolutely could get a nice rebound on this, back to the 8 EMA, maybe the 0.5. That would be a nice move. So from here, we'd have a 28% move just back to the 0.5 or the 8 EMA. Doesn't mean we would get it all in one candle. So like, let's just say we close up over the 618 this week. That 8 EMA will move down a notch. And then the following week, it could continue and maybe head up towards that level. Yeah, so that looks about right. You got a pivot here, halfway. So a nice realistic move would be from here to the S1 pivot, where you could see that was support, and then it failed, and now we would come back up and retest that support. But because the 8 EMA is so high above, it could take weeks before that kind of creeps down here, and we get that. And I wouldn't even attempt it unless we could at least close a daily candle back over 1868, right? So it tried, it failed, and now it's going to retest here. So this is actually a bearish retest, until it can close up over the daily 8 EMA. And once it does, that would be your invalidation on the short. And then you would try to go long with a stop underneath to try to take it up to this $20 mark, which you can see lines up very nicely with the 21 EMA. And that's how you use these markers, right? It allows you to remain neutrally biased on everything, because this is a great looking short because you got two things showing you that that's going to be resistance, and then your stop loss goes just above. If it works out, well, then you take profits way down here at 1671. If it doesn't work out and it closes a candle up over, well, then you flip long and you keep your stop loss just below, and then you try to take it up here. And in both scenarios, you're taking a small loss with the potential large gain either way, and that is the kind of trade setups that you're looking for. Link. Let's look at Link. All right, so I don't know what that's doing. Daily, weekly, 3, 2. Yeah, I mean it's bearish on the weekly. Could get a snapback back up to the $16 mark where the 8 EMA is as well. Supports at 1220. I don't know. There's a lot of wiggle room in there, so it makes it tough. And the only thing you really have is the daily pivot to kind of go off of. So you could try long here. Stop loss is just underneath if we close the daily candle below. Try to take it up to the 21 EMA for a take profit. Doesn't really give too much to work with there. It's definitely bearish. It's definitely in a downtrend. And let's see, it's showing a little bit of divergence here on the daily, which is nice to see. So that's why, I'm starting to see those on the dailies, where the divergence is starting to show. And you can see that MACD is crossing green and could potentially start heading a little bit higher, but it wouldn't be like substantial right out of the gate. Like, it would have to come up and retest that downtrend and then try to prove it can get over. AMD. Oh, I should use this one. Okay, so it failed the 0.5, and now it is trying to bounce off of the 618. And typically it's not great. Sometimes things can recover from here, but I'd say 8.5 times out of 10, it will go into the golden pocket and find support down here. So this would be something I would like to potentially short, but I wouldn't want to short it until it tested the downtrend in order to create the least amount of risk, right? So it's so far below here, it makes sense to get a move back up towards the downtrend. And then that's where I would attempt the short, stop loss just above, and try to take this down into the golden pocket where I would take profits on that short. And potentially take a longer term, midterm long, because that would likely be, it's likely where the relief bounce comes from. We could also get some sort of like head and shoulders happening here, where here's your left shoulder, here's the whole head, and then you get another kind of move back up to create the right shoulder before it finally starts heading down. If that happens, then it's likely we'll go deeper than the golden pocket and head down to the 786 level. None of these things look like long-term buys to me, and the reason is because you can clearly see like divergence everywhere. So if you go to the monthly time frame, that's clearly heading higher, that's clearly heading lower, and this has gone parabolic from extreme lows. So it absolutely makes sense that, from $1.67 in 2015 to where we are now, it's finding highs, and then the next high isn't getting that much bigger. So this is looking like a big distribution, and then maybe it eventually falls years from now. I don't know. I'd much rather be an NVIDIA investor than an AMD investor, honestly. If you were going to try that, this would be where I would like to buy it again one day if it gave it to me somewhere around these highs here. Let's just go with the high 145. That'd be a nice place to try to get some, but that's probably going to take a long time before you can get that. But maybe set some alerts on your chart. S token. Man, I'm glad I didn't buy into that hype. So I had a conglomeration. I don't think I've looked at it since, but I did combine Phantom and S at one point. Yeah, there we go. So we could still get the whole chart, which is nice. So 2 attempts at the golden pocket sold off. And now it's bearish. You can definitely see divergence here as well. That's rising prices. That's lowering momentum. So I don't think this is going to make it either. And the only way I would change my mind is if it at least broke up over that 786. And then fine, I would take this into a bull market if it gave it to me. But I don't know if that's going to happen. It's not looking great. Silver. All right. I have that up here somewhere. Next to gold. No, I don't think I have that. All right. That's decent looking. All right, so if it breaks the 3136 barrier, it's breaking it though. Like it broke the trend. I think. Did it? Yeah, it broke it. Okay, I mean it's got potential. Simply because that trend there is broken. It's staying bullish on the MACD. It's already tried to sell off twice, and it found support inside the golden pocket after being here twice, right? So that's what you want to see. Even though it peaked in there for a little bit, that's still considered a golden pocket sell-off because it sold off heavily. And now we're returning to the golden pocket, so that's the pattern you want to see. And then head for the 786 around $35. It's definitely bullish. And silver historically likes to follow gold, and gold's been doing well still, even though I think it's close to being at a top as well, and could make a nice run. That's one for the longs. Kootenay, that's one I've never heard of. KTN. Scripture Products Court. It is. What is that? Securities. Okay. Let's see. How deep did that go? Sheesh. Top. So yeah, I mean it's below support and it's like rejecting it every time it tries. And so looking at the monthly, it looks like that's likely going to head down to the 382. Looking at the weekly, it is bearish. So it's trying to hold on to this support, and it looks like it's failing to do so. It's bearish on the MACD and the RSI, and unless it can get back over 2685 at this pivot, it's short. Or break this downtrend at least. Like it's got to do something. Right now it's like sitting right at it. So I hope that helps. Sorry, it's a different KTN. Should be Kootenai silver. Oh. All right, well, KTN's a sell for anyone who's interested. So I guess that would be, what would that be under? One new clip, what does that mean? Maybe send me a link to that and yeah, I mean, that's all I'm getting. I guess I'll try typing in Coot. And A. There we are. All right, I'm going to look at the TS. Yeah, this one. Okay. We found it. Perpetual state of downtrend forever. And maybe it makes a move back up to that point at sometime, but let's see. I don't see anything great here. It's fighting the resistance from this previous support at the moment. And I suppose if you can get a weekly close over that 103 level, it might be worth a flyer. But I mean, it's bearish. EMAs are bearish. And it's at this resistance. So wouldn't be a buy for me until it can clear 103 and consistently close over that on the daily and maybe even the weekly once or twice. All right, well, I hope that helps. Any other questions, comments, chart quests? I know it's not fun times, but hey, just know that when it's time to short, we're going to be there. And thank you all for coming, and I'll see you during the week. I'm going to post the recording in the Weekly Outlook channel for anyone who has missed it. Please like and subscribe below. I would really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Have a great night. Bye.